So I was diagnosed with cancer, basically like 2 months or 3 months after we have started with this. And yeah, I mean, there are like multiple dimensions we could talk about. The relevance has become much more clear. I mean, it's like there's a clear like guiding star in this project.
Yeah.
But then it's also like, I think also the tools for myself. I mean, like thinking about myself in hospital. I mean, the way I regulated my nervous system and I regulated myself was exactly through breathwork. This is the way how I think at the end of the day, when I had tough times in the hospital, this is like what helped me as well. So I think there is very much from like there was.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Grown Ups. In this episode, again, we went to KEEN Wellbeing, Europe's biggest active recovery club, to understand what active recovery actually means for us.
Yeah, and you can see the actual experience here in the video, so how we did the sauna, breathwork and ice bath.
Because in this episode, we did something else.
Yeah, so this episode is about the interviews with the two founders, with Frankie and David, who are super cool people, I have to say. I was so inspired. So
Fell in love actually with both.
Yeah. And we talked about many things, or they told us about their founding stories, like how they got to KEEN, what they did before, and why they actually founding KEEN, what active recovery is, and why it's so important for your body and also for your nervous system.
Yeah, and while doing this, they dive also into scientific benefits of it, and why it's not only good for your emotional, but also your mental and physical growth. So all these 3 parts that we highly recommend. Yeah, all right, then let's say, with no further ado, let's jump into the episode. And one last thing, please excuse the bad sound and video quality. It's one of the first episodes we recorded, and it has nothing to do with my camera.
It has all to do with the camera. So yeah, have fun, enjoy, and
let's grow.
Yeah, let's grow. We here, brother, we here. Where are we?
Here.
Also, wir gehen jetzt hier auf der falschen Seite vom Boden rein.
Ja.
Wo wir eigentlich jetzt gerade hier stehen, ist die Sauna. Eigentlich alles Sauna.
Okay.
Mit integriertem Licht. Hier kommen 4 offene Duschen hin. Das heißt, Leute, die man möchte die ganze
Good. Let's do it. So we have here David, and then what's your background? Where you're coming from what you did before, and now you're at Wellbeing. So
Okay.
how's this journey?
So I wouldn't say like I have like this rote Faden.
Yeah.
So my journey has had like multiple different like changes.
Yeah.
So like initially I started like in business, as many of us do. I went into consulting, so like I think like a very traditional way. Then found out that like in consulting, like the more creative part is what really attracts me.
Yeah.
So I changed from business into design. I did like some other studies. I did a product design master as well. And then I was like, okay, and so I basically could at some point combine my interests, but also like with somehow with my passion. And I think this was more like my professional way. But then at some point, like in parallel, like sports was always like that big thing for me. So like the big passion. It's basically how I spent my time. I think it was at some point also a coping mechanism for many things, for stress as well. I would also say like for some emotional topics as well. And while I was doing sports, I went more and more into extreme sports. So that, for example, like I was an Ironman and a powerman athlete.
Wow.
So yeah, like at some point, this entire topic like came up, right? Because like you go into extremes on a performance level, like on an endurance level, but then what do you do for your recovery? And I think this was very much my journey, because I felt my body needed recovery. And at the end of the day, it was not just a physical recovery, right? Like at some point, it was also the emotional recovery. And that then also brought me into meditation. And I think that was like a couple of years ago, when I then really dove more and more into meditation. I also did the meditation teachers training. Yeah, and at that point, this all was really to get to know myself, and also to get to know
why did you think this was
this
necessary?
would help me.
Yeah, why do you think this?
I think this
I mean,
personal...
you could think like a good-looking guy doing an Ironman, being sporty. So why do you?
Why?
Why do you need to?
I think I was very much always interested in in transformational topics. And I think back then it was more how can I get better? How do I get better? And I think in sports, it's very transactional, right? You get better when you have the best times. You get better the faster you are. And I think for me, it was really at some point, on an emotional level, I realized that this speed of my life, this speed of my journey was too fast to also still have the control about what is really going on. And then on this entire thing, this entire topic about who am I in this world, and who do I want to become, I think this is really came in parallel with it, with also with mindfulness, with the entire mindfulness practices.
And is it connected to you then co-founding
This company?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I think there was an entire process already before. I think it was more so these practices and this combination of it. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's it was living in between extremes. It was training for an Ironman, training 2 times a day, and then at the same time trying to go into the complete stillness through meditation. And it was very funny, because at some point I tried to get to Hawaii, which for an Ironman is the biggest thing, right? The championship, the world championship. And I changed my trainer. So I'm basically my coach.
Yeah.
So my coach was a shamanic person. So he was also a Ironman athlete back when he was young.
Yeah.
But then he went into the shamanic journey.
Wow.
And for me, this was the first time where I could really connect those two worlds.
I was always struck by the fact that I think, especially in the Western world, it's very clear that movement is important. People work out.
Yeah.
Looking good matters a lot. So people go to the gym. That's very clear. But we don't have the same approach for mental health.
Yeah.
And there's also no gym for there's therapy.
Yeah.
There's now coaching is coming up quite a bit, but there's still a wild stigma. And I think that's when I kind of met David, and the idea was, can we create something preventative, something that can be integrated into your daily routine? And I think that was kind of the learning for us, that isn't just mental health, but that works holistically. So if we're speaking mentally, emotionally, physically, and also socially, because these are all elements that are crucial.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, well, it's becoming a thing, and I think it's becoming a thing for a reason, right?
Yeah.
This is I think it has a lot to do with where we're at.
What is your personal vision with KEEN?
For the company or my personal?
And you're both.
Both.
Maybe start with the personal.
I think at the end of the day, I mean, this is my first company that I founded, my first for-profit company. My personal goal was always to do something that inspires me, where I feel like I contribute to something that matters, that is societally relevant, and to build a company on the values that matter to me.
Yeah.
So to integrate, to co-create, to include feelings, to create connection. I think that was a personal goal of mine. And if I now, 1 year later, if I look at the team of almost 20 people that we have, it really puts me in awe
Yeah.
That feels really, really good. And I'm excited to see where we can go together. But I think for me, it's less about getting somewhere, but it's how are we building this company? And is that it aligned with what matters to me and the values that I hold? And I think for KEEN concretely, where we want to go, we want to be the leading provider of active recovery. I think that's really the topic that we're kind of really obsessed with.
Can you maybe also elaborate a bit on this active recovery part?
I mean, there's contrast. So ice and sauna, which is probably the element that we're very much known for, if we're known. For those who know us. Active recovery is a new trend where there's, let's say, for example, sleep would be a passive recovery, where meditation is also less accessible. And the goal for us is really to see, at the end of the day, what happens is people work a lot. And when you're stressed, your nervous system kind of becomes dysregulated in most cases. What people do then, they then do a HIIT workout or whatnot. And what happens with nervous system, you're constantly up. You're constantly in fight, flight, freeze mode. And for us, active recovery, and it's active because you're doing something. And it's not just like, okay, like I'm hanging out now. But it's what are the tools that are accessible and available that you can regulate, that you can come back. And it's not just passive relaxation, but it's stuff like, for example, functional mobility. It is the ice bath where you learn to self-regulate. It is the sauna, it's the breath work. And we just we're good, I think, at playing around with different tools. And we try to create a broad portfolio of offerings so that you can kind of check in and see, am I super exhausted and do I need rest, or am I super anxious and I actually just I need to calm down? That's a different type of active recovery that you're looking for. But at the end of the day, I think our core belief is that we're our best version when we're not stuck in survival mode, but when we're connected with ourselves and when our nervous system is regulated. And active recovery is the tool for that.
So you would say also it's not only for, okay, I'm super stressed and then I need to do active recovery, but you can also do it like as a tool just to calm yourself down and get to yourself.
It can be, I'm exhausted, or hey, how can I get the best start into my day? What does my body and my brain need to actually perform to get away, like to get rid of the brain fog? But it's also, for example, for athletes, like if you train a lot, and David can share a bit about this, we know how important recovery is, but people don't take the time because it requires a lot of discipline. And also the physical, like myofascial release, for example. Like if you work out, what do you do on your rest day? A lot of top athletes will tell you how important recovery is for long-term performance. So we really try to offer classes, but also individual treatments that work mentally, emotionally, physically, and also socially. And that's where the social events really play a role.
And do you really think like this combination of this external factors, so like physical factors, to the like inner factors, this creates actually like an exponential effect, like that you become better?
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think, like, I mean, there's always science, right? Which says, or which talks about the benefit, which talks about the effects of recovery. But then there's also the feeling. There's my feeling and it's my experience. And I know now, like, also like how important those phases of basically of recovery, of regeneration has helped me to, at the end, like, get better in whatever I've done. Like, I mean, sport is one aspect, right? But it gave me space. Like, it gave me also space in the professional world. Like, when I had the space through meditation, like, it gave me enough space to also be more creative, whether it was as a designer or whether it was as a founder at the end of the day. And at some point, this topic of recovery, I mean, at the end of the day, I really got upset with the topic because it was more than just like a passion, I would say. So it really got into a topic I was like, it was with me every day, every single day. I try to optimize my life at the end of the day. And I think for me, this part of recovery, but also this topic of mindfulness, has become a central aspect of my life to get better in any sense, whether it's like physical, whether it's mental, or whether it's emotional. Yeah.
Do you think this is something where especially men have, I would say, like a more difficult time?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, like
Maybe also
yeah,
talking from your own experience.
Yeah.
No?
for sure, 100%. I think like all the mindfulness practices, I think they oftentimes have, I would say, like still a very feminine energy. So for a lot of men, there is no way to access this world. No way. And I think it has also changed. I mean, I remember like the first retreat I visited was like, I think I was like 17 or 16 years old, and I visited that with my mom. And I remember like there was no single man. And like I went back into retreats, like every year 1 or 2 retreats, and it has changed. So there are more and more men coming into this world. And I think there's also like there's differences depending on what practice you go and you visit, right? So I think in meditation it has become a central part, and that's like also that you see more and more men, and in breathwork as well. And yeah, I think that's also like what we like try to also change a bit with KEEN, right? It's like, what is the entry point? At the end of the day, it's oftentimes it's the way you visualize things, the way you communicate to your audience. And yeah, we try to break that barrier also a bit with this project. So it's like KEEN, basically the branding of KEEN and the way we talk is very much like it's like a lifestyle brand. It could be could be like a On, it could be like a Supreme brand. That's how we look like, and that's how we feel like. And yeah, that's how we, at least, it's our hypothesis that this is our way how we could bring in more people as well. And also then the communication, like how do you talk to men? Like what is essential for them to get to know? And I think there is still a huge potential to break barriers and to create like an entry point for men as well.
But why would they do this? Like why would this be beneficial for a man?
I mean, at the end of the day, I can like there's also like 2 ways to talk about it. It's like my experience. Like from my experience, it's like however we want to call it, whether we want to call it like emotional transformation, whether we want to call it like physical recovery, whatever we do, it's like it's the way. I mean, at the end of the day, to create a better performance, whatever it is, whether it's in your relationships, whether it's like in sports, or whether it's in your professional world, it has an impact on your person, on your personality.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's very simple. Like if you want to get better as a person, and whatever better means, right? Like better is like, it has a connotation, but whatever this means, I think I mean, at the end of the day, you have to work on yourself. It's like transformation only happens if you change, and change is, it's hard. Like change is difficult, and change is work. And like work is never like, I mean, there are easier ways to go through life, but at the end of the day, I think if you really want to grow as a person, on whatever dimension, emotional, physical, mental, but also social, you have to do the work, and you have to get to know yourself and how you react in certain situations. And I think
and something like KEEN Wellbeing would be a good entry point for that. Is that what I hear from you?
I mean, like there are, depending on the target audience and depending on what you look for, right, or what you wish for, but like KEEN, and that's what we see. We have tested this concept a year. We have like our ratio is 50-50. So we have 50% men and we have 50% like female visitors. And I think compared to other concepts that I have seen in the past, especially in the spiritual world, this is like, there is a difference. for sure. Yeah. And I think it is a yeah. There is something about these topics that resonates a lot with men as well. And I can only guess what it is, right? I can only guess. And I think the thing that those tools deliver is like also there is science behind. So you get why you do what you're doing here. It's not just like you do something and you only feel it.
Yeah.
But also like there is something happening on a physiological level as well.
Yeah.
And I think this is one part.
Yeah.
And I think this is something where I at least think, and this is just my hypothesis, that this is something that attracts also like men as well.
We're talking about the physiological effects. Is there something specific for this kind of order of breathwork, sauna, ice bath? Like, has it something to do with the effects?
How we combine it. Yeah. I mean, like what we do, the classes we give, they're always like based on protocols.
Yeah.
So there's always a science behind. Like, so when we start like with breathwork, like what are the techniques we choose? This is like carefully chosen based on what are the scientific protocols that are out there. And then also like in combination with the ice bath. And then also like for example, like another example is like our saunas, they have like different temperatures and different humidities. All of that is like based on protocols that exist here. I mean, basically in the scientific world.
Do you know something about the actual physiological effects that happen?
Where in the ice bath?
Yeah, like in the ice bath, for example.
Yeah, I mean, they're like depending on. I mean, there are 3 tools that we're using, right? And with breathwork, there are like physiological benefits. I mean, it's probably the same that you have heard of, like in the retreats.
Yeah.
So like from mental clarity to reducing anxiety, like those are like main benefits. Also like to regulate your nervous system.
Yeah.
So those are like the physiological benefits. Then in the ice bath, like there's like a release of neurochemicals, so of dopamine, and this really brings this mental clarity at the end of the day. But then there are also like other side effects that you see in science.
Yeah.
And it's like it increases like the metabolism. It has like it reduces the soreness of your muscles. Like those are all elements that you see today in science as well.
Yeah.
And then with the sauna, it's I mean, the longest study that has been done in science about like cardiovascular health has been in combination with sauna. And it showed that like people using sauna like on a weekly base, on a daily base, they can reduce or they can like improve their cardiovascular health, but also like they reduce the mortality rate to like 40%.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of science that is there.
Yeah.
And it's not just, I would say, like it's not just a trend, right? Like ice bathing is not a trend.
Yeah.
Like it has been there since ever.
Just in other countries, no more.
Yeah, it has been there forever. Yeah.
David, maybe last question. You said you shared you went through a difficult time this year, and like also how did this what you're doing here help you maybe also to succeed and.
Yeah, exactly. So I was diagnosed with cancer, basically like 2 months or 3 months after we have started with this. And yeah, I mean, there are like multiple dimensions we could talk about, but there's definitely like from a business perspective, it definitely gave much more depth in this project. It like the why got even more important. So like, it's not just like, I would say like a motivation or like just a project that I realize that is important or where I also see the market going into, but it's like, I mean, it has become basically more or less like who I am and like what I went through, or like the relevance has become much more clearer. I mean, it's like there's a clear like guiding star in this project.
Yeah.
But then it's also like, I think also the tools for myself. I mean, like thinking about myself in hospital. I mean, the way I regulated my nervous system and I regulated myself was exactly through breathwork. This is the way how I think at the end of the day, when I had tough times in the hospital, this is like what helped me as well. So I think there is very much from like, there was also, I would say, even though I have practiced the tools the last couple of years, but I think there has been a shift from like understanding them on a cognitive level to like really feel and embody the relevance of them at the end of the day. And I think those are two main points and main dimensions that have once again changed. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Not just like a theoretical, but a real practical application for some.
So you kind of try to build an alternative nightlife. Maybe you can tell us about this.
So for us, I mean, community has always, that's why we're also called like Active Recovery Club.
Yeah.
Like the social.
So you can go to the club.
Yes. It's just a different kind of club. Well, I mean,
at some points there will be.
At some point, no. I mean, there's some contraindication also for the ice bath and sauna. I think that would be the bound.
Yeah.
But the idea long term is for us to, I mean, that's why we also created a super large sauna, because people connect. And like, if you look at every culture in the world, like sweat houses or the onsen, this is also where we very much come from. We see, especially in the younger generations, there's a step away from alcohol, or like people aren't really ready anymore to pay the price of what it means to go out. And so we wanted to create something that is light and fun, and where you have really good music, but where you can hang out. Do the same thing you would do in a bar without kind of this, there's booze and drinks and whatnot.
Super cool.
A healthier version of that.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you. Kevin, Zurich is so much better than Munich, right?
Yeah. Good. You don't have that.
I think social science is the add-on to it.
Du, dann aber nach Hause bringen. Ja, dann wird man während dem Essen auch ein bisschen beguckt.